The several times that I was in jail, I met a lot of people. And I met a lot of people, and they were just like me. They were good people that just messed up. But one of the things that they didn't have was an environment and a system.
And my whole life growing up was like defending myself or trying to defend my mom while my dad was at work. And I wasn't taking accountability, but I didn't learn any of that until I started going to therapy. And once I started learning that in therapy, I realized like I got to work on these things because I don't want to be this person that is
the stereotype of an addict or alcoholic.
Right.
But really what's happening now with the, this epidemic of fentanyl and just also suicide, right? It's a combination of the mental health and the addiction and the fentanyl. Hi, everyone. This is Tom Nemad with Ocean Rock Podcast. Also today with conjunction of South Coast Counseling. We actually have two very unique guests in terms of both their character and also the passion that they're bringing to the table. We have Ren Goolsbee to my right, and we have Paul Astin to my left. They're working on a very special project right now called End Overdose. They'll tell us more about it, but essentially it's to give education and Narcan and naloxone to people that are dealing with overdose and also with the community so they know what to do in these types of situations. So we've talked about this in prior episodes, the need for raising awareness, education, and also to deliver this Narcan to the community. So if somebody's overdosing, they have the ability to bring them back to life. It changes lives and it saves lives. So, in our programs, we've had to use it and we've had to give it out to the community. And without it, some people wouldn't be here today.
Right.
So we want to learn more about End Overdose and when that's happening and what we can do to support that. In addition to that, we want to learn a little bit more about both of your backgrounds and kind of how you guys got here. And if there's anything you can share with everyone who is suffering from addiction or mental health issues on what you guys did to help and what they can do to help themselves. So why don't we start with you, Ren, and you can tell us a little bit about yourself. And
Sure. My name's Ren, and I'm an alcoholic. No.
Ren.
Well, I am. I'm actually in recovery. Just took 17 years on May 22nd. 2007 is my sobriety date, and I never thought I'd be in this career that I am in now, and that's helping people. So I won't get into everything that happened to me, but like the story goes, it just didn't work anymore, and I had issues and was sentenced to 7 years in prison with a lot of felonies, and I needed to change my life, and I sat in jail for a year fighting my case and wondering what I was going to do. Prior to that, I did have my own business. I was a mortgage broker and had a mortgage office, but I also did a lot of extracurricular activities that weren't legal, and it caught up to me. And so when I was in jail and I was figuring out what I was going to do, luckily my dad he had reached out to his auto mechanic, and his auto mechanic was in recovery and had like 30 years. And he asked, what should I do? And he gave him some suggestions. I ended up getting picked up from jail on a year. I thought I was going to go to prison, but with a great lawyer, thank God I had a family to help me with that. I was able to sign a joint suspension and get out of going to prison and doing 7 years. But that was the condition was I'd be on probation for 3 years, and if I messed up on probation, then I'd have to do the full 7 years, and that year wouldn't count.
Wow.
So when I I moved in, thank God, to this sober living that I later became business partners with the owner, and it was called Keystone Sober Living for Men, and that really changed my life. It took me a while, though, before my thinking changed. So I faked it to make it, to be honest with you, in recovery for the first 2 years. And everybody around me was, doing what they're supposed to do. I was doing everything except getting a sponsor and actively working the 12 steps. And everybody around me was doing that, and many miracles were happening in their lives, and they weren't happening in mine, like they were. And finally somebody, said to me, what's it going to hurt? What are you afraid of? And so I ended up doing the 12 steps, and long story short, ever since I did them, my life started changing dramatically in every way. Like miracles started happening in my life, and I later on became house manager of that house, and then from there saved money and opened up my next sober living with the owner of that house, and then we opened up 3 more after that. And I really enjoyed helping other people, like where I was at in my life, and being able to offer the same to them as the same thing that was offered to me, and help people, right? Mm-hmm. And that just snowballed into me working in treatment, and I really enjoyed working treatment. And I went and got my KDAC and became a counselor, and then from there, learned everything about operations, and just started moving up and to where eventually I was running a treatment center, and having therapists work for us, and it was a great feeling. But it was really the best feeling was those guys doing treatment, completing treatment, and then moving into my sober livings and still having accountability and growing and cleaning up all the wreckage of their past, and then moving out and then coming back to our house meetings that were open to everybody that was an alumni, to really seeing that grow into something, and people coming back with 4 years, 3 years, 7 years, saying, Keystone changed my life. And Keystone did. It changed my life too. And so, but then my sponsor decided he's getting ready to retire and wanted to move. So I started opening up my own sober livings with the exact same rules, called Higher Purpose Recovery. Okay. And I've had those for the last 7 years now for men. And eventually by the end of this year, I'll have a women's house, because there definitely needs to be an affordable housing for women. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to be able to do, is offer affordable housing, but a safe place for them to live and change their lives and clean up all the wreckage of their past. So recently I just added some more things to my sober living, and it's going to be part of our daily routine, where they will have to do this regardless if they have finances or not. I'll even scholarship them, but it's going to be part of our curriculum, is what I'm trying to say. Right. So now I started a Higher Purpose Recovery mental health virtual outpatient. We offer groups on Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursday nights from 6:30 to 7:30. Okay. And then we give them therapy once a week to twice a week. So it'll be part of
outpatient program.
Yeah. So, but it'll be all done virtually. Got it.
So
any of the guys living in the houses, that will be part of their curriculum. They'll have to do that and go to AA meetings and follow all the other rules. And whether they have insurance or not, they'll still be doing the groups and therapy. Right. Because I think it's important for all of us that are in recovery to keep working on ourselves, to really learn about all the things that we may have used to get us to this point in life, but they may not be working for us anymore with employers, relationships. And what I mean by that is our defense mechanisms, right? I had a childhood where I fought with my brother all the time, and he was my arch enemy. And no matter what, I couldn't do anything to protect myself with him. And later on in life, I learned that he was my half-brother, and that he came from another dad, and that dad was very abusive and had an alcohol and drug problem. And my whole life growing up was defending myself or trying to defend my mom while my dad was at work. And I didn't realize that the things that happened to protect myself is I wanted to learn how to fight and take up martial arts and defend myself. And I was very quick later on in life to always blame other people for something that happened, whether it's my employer, friends, or relationship. If something happened, I would point the finger at somebody else, right? Right. And I wasn't taking accountability, but I didn't learn any of that until I started going to therapy. Right. And once I started learning that in therapy, I realized oh my gosh, I gotta work on these things, because I don't want to be this person that is I had this Napoleon complex and this attitude that I was better than everybody else, and it was never my fault, and I wasn't taking accountability. So in therapy, I learned all that and learned to be basically a better version of myself, of who I really wanted to be. And that was a loving, kind person that had a lot of compassion to help people, right? And I can do that in a lot better way now, knowing these things and working on these character defects I had. And so I want to be able to offer the same services to those people. So long story short, I run a program called Higher Purpose Recovery, but I also then got offered to work with Paul over at a very reputable company called Webserve. And Webserve, what they do on a global scale is help treatment centers, help clients find treatment centers easier on the internet to call them and say, I need help, right? And so Paul works for an amazing company called Webserve, and Paul offered me a job to work with him and help bring it to everybody across the United States that runs and operates a treatment facility. And so then I started working with Paul, and it's cool because, you know, a lot of the guys that work there are in recovery, and so they get it, and they kind of know like the same things that everyone else is going through and what clients are looking for when they're looking to admit to a facility. And so then we started doing that, and then we partnered recently up with End Overdose, and we're having a huge event October 4th and 5th. And I want Paul to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to take up the whole hour.
You know, we let it ride.
Yeah.
We let it ride. But no, so just, I mean, we'll talk to Paul in a second, but just kind of a couple of takeaways from I mean, first of all, just congratulations on everything you've done. You know, to go from where you were to where you are now, and just that whole mindset shift of like, instead of thinking about yourself, thinking about how to help other people. That's kind of the starting point, right? But, you know, a couple of things you mentioned. One is, you know, at first you were kind of just, you know, on autopilot. You weren't really doing with the work, and you weren't achieving the kind of success and miracles that other people were. But it's when you started doing, you know, active AA and getting a sponsor and having somebody that you were working with. And then when you added the therapeutic element, right? Whether it was individual or some group therapy, and just added that and learned more about yourself and learned more about kind of the underlying causes and how to deal with that and get the tools to deal with that, which is what we do. I mean, South Coast and Hired Power and you know, at Ocean Rock, I mean, that's what we do is to help people figure out how to not only take the daily active steps, but also to get that therapeutic component. Because a lot of times I think the two biggest reasons why people don't get where they want to go is lack of accountability, right? And just them thinking that they don't need, you know, that whole like, I don't need this. I'm not an addict, or I don't have issues, or just give me like a few days and I'll be fine. You know, like somehow like a lifelong disease and like the consequences of that disease is going to go away after a week of treatment or something like that, right? So it's just this naive thinking that. But eventually, once they see that doesn't work, and in your case, you saw that didn't work, then you know, you got to just show up. You got to do what you need to do, and you need to be brave and courageous enough to work on yourself, and then obviously work with other people as part of your recovery. So I wanted to congratulate you and just kind of let you know that, you know, a lot of people watching this, the stories are similar in that, you know, if you just choose to continue to do what you're doing and think that you could do it by yourself and you don't need help and you've got this, then you're not going to be open to this whole community of people who are there to help you once they've, you know, once they've figured it out, right? And so, you know, Ren, you're one of those guys who's helping people right now, and just wanted to applaud that.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And what I realized too is like, when I really started getting vulnerable about myself, so a big time was like my ego, right? My ego was getting in the way. Oh, I'm tough. I was raised to be tougher, and you know, I don't have all these feelings, but really I did have all these feelings. And once I opened up those feelings and started talking about it and getting vulnerable, especially with other people, then I saw the magic happening of them opening up to me. And so it was cool to do.
That's cool. So Paul, you know, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then also I think you can kind of just tell us about what you're doing with End Overdose along with our man Ren over here.
Okay, cool. I will segue into End Overdose after I tell a little bit about myself. I'm in this industry not necessarily because of addiction, I'm more in it for the mental health side of things. I own a treatment center called Bright Path Mental Health, and then I have many titles at Webserve. President of Strategic Engagement, or CMO, or salesman, whatever you'd like to put on it.
Sounds like you're one of the guys that makes things happen over there.
I would say that, yes.
Yeah.
So I struggled with mental health quite a bit when I was younger. I don't know if it's my brother dying when I was younger, if it was my best friend dying when I was younger. But I started getting in fights when I was probably about kindergarten. And I probably, by the time I was 20 years old, was probably in over 200 fights.
Wow.
I first went to jail when I was 14. Then I went to jail in Arizona for quite a while when I was 15. Kind of got caught in the system and went to jail several times, probably till I was about 23. And then I went to jail again when I was 29. And this time it was a lot more serious and it was a much bigger deal. And one thing, the reason I even bring this up, and it's why I do what I do, is I always found myself as a normal person. I knew I had kind of a hole inside of me, and that's kind of why I fought. And sometimes I tell people, like, for me, there was no better feeling than feeling my hand smash into someone's face. Like, that's something crazy to say.
Right.
But it was how messed up I was. And this hole inside of me, you know, I tried to fill it with different things. And what I found out as I got older, of course, through, you know, mental health things and going to therapy and stuff, was I needed to fill that hole myself. That was stuff that I felt like I was not accomplishing in my life. I felt like I wasn't doing what I was put on this planet to do. So until I did that, that hole was never going to get filled. Mm-hmm. The several times that I was in jail, I met a lot of people. And I met a lot of people, and they were just like me. They were good people that just messed up. But one of the things that they didn't have was an environment and a system. I grew up with a very, very religious family that was really good to me. I had that environment. I had that system, that family to fall back on. So the reason I got into mental health is I wanted to help people when they need help the most. And so I initially worked in jails for a while, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. But my father, who worked in jails for over a decade, told me, you know, you don't want to work with people necessarily that are in prison, because about half of them want help and about half of them don't. You need to work in more on a mental health side or on an addiction side, because those people actually do want help.
Right.
So that's when I kind of segued into this of trying to help people when they need help the most. That's kind of my thing. Working with a digital marketing company where we help treatment centers get people into treatment, I look at it at a much more macro level. I did a presentation in Astin in April, and one of the things that I talked about is, you know, they kind of wanted me to talk about SEO and PPC, but I wanted to talk more about why treatment centers should do it.
Right.
And I said that, you know, my company, Webserve, we put 1,300 people into treatment last year alone.
Wow.
With different treatment centers and different things across the board in the United States. That's what we did through the digital platform, and that's how many people we helped.
Wow.
That's how I make myself feel better about not really being frontline, and that's a lot of the reason why I started Bright Path. Is my goal and my dream has always been to be a clinician and help people when they need help the most. So that is why I do what I do. Because seeing these people, when I got out of jail, I had to do groups for 2 years. And in these groups, I would see people, and I probably led the group for the last year of it. And it gave me purpose. It gave me, a passion of trying to help people when they need help the most, and say, I've been there. Like, I have been so messed up and thinking that I'm going to die at 30. I'm going to die at 35. Why am I even trying?
Right.
But I wanted to show them that if I can do it with how effed up I am or was, you can do it too.
Right.
And this is how you can do it.
Right.
And that's why I do what I do. my company, Webserve, we've put on several events over the last couple of years. We've put on golfing events for recovery. We've done pickleball events for recovery, for addiction. When this idea was brought to me about End Overdose, it was something that I had to jump on, because honestly, what's more important than saving lives?
Right.
I mean,
that's why you do what you do.
That's why we all do what we do.
Right.
Is because we want to save people's lives. And I was just talking to somebody about this right before I came here when I was trying to get them to go to the event. I was saying, this event is going to be amazing. Friday night, we're going to have, I wanted to get one guy that owns a treatment center in the United States that was, for my buck, I feel he's respected, passionate, and one of the best treatment center owners in the United States, and Bobby Ferguson with Jay Walker Lodge. I wanted to get him to speak at this event, and he's speaking at this event. And I was talking to them about how Friday night we're going to have this amazing dinner overlooking the ocean at Torrey Pines Golf Course with a DJ, with a comedian, with amazing speakers. And then I said, but let's not forget, like, I'm trying to bring value to this so that you'll sign up and do it, but I'm raising money for End Overdose. I'm raising money to save lives. I'm not making one penny on this event.
Right.
All of the proceeds is going to save people's lives.
Right.
My buddy's wife just OD'd 2 weeks ago.
My goodness. Yeah.
Like
You hear these stories all the time.
all the time.
Yeah.
And at the same company where he works, they had an employee overdose a week before that.
Mm.
It's like it affects everybody, and it is a daily thing. So when this event was given to me, like, hey, Paul, do you think we could raise $200,000 for End Overdose? I was like, no, I'm just kidding. I said, I will
Just
do
200.
Yeah. I said, I will do my best.
Right.
And we've gotten pretty close. We still got about 2 months. It's October 4th and October 5th. And one thing I've been telling people, it's like, look, I'm giving you this opportunity to save lives on a tax write-off and play golf on one of the best courses in the world.
Right.
Like, I'm trying really, really hard to make it as easy for you as possible to donate money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to me. It's going to this amazing cause. It's these LA firefighters that started this nonprofit called End Overdose. They're paramedics in LA, and they got sick of seeing people on the streets dying.
Right.
So they started this nonprofit, and I want to do everything within my power to support it. It's called End Overdose. And not only is it going to be kind of a next level amazing event for this recovery space, but it also has a purpose. And one of the, Ren and me and you too, Tom, we go to all these events all the time. We go to these conferences in Palm Springs or in Denver, and these proceeds go to the company that's putting on the conference.
Right.
We're putting on a collective/conference where people can come, they can network, they can do all these things they do at these conferences, but every single penny is going to save people's lives. And I couldn't think of a better cause.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, in terms of value, right? I mean, in terms of if you're going to go and network and you're going to go, there's different reasons you go to somewhere, right? Now you happen to choose one of the best places on earth, right? So you go to Torrey Pines, you can hang out, you can relax, but you can network. But then the main focus and goal is to raise the money. And then let's talk a little bit about what End Overdose does and what that money is going to be going, like what kind of programs that's going to be going towards. Because you mentioned the origin story, and I think that was fascinating, just the firefighters and the paramedics getting together. It's a nonprofit 501c3 organization, so the money's tax deductible. And then what is the mission and what is the use of the funds, and kind of what does End Overdose do on a day-to-day basis?
So they go to several events all over the world. A lot of music events, a lot of Hollywood events. They're, obviously the ties of recovery are, really intertwined with Hollywood and music. Right. So one thing that they really want to do is show people how to do Narcan, and that they are going to be giving out Narcan.
Right.
And one of the things that they're going to be doing is demonstrating at this End Overdose event we're going to do how to do it correctly.
Right.
So Narcan is not free.
Right.
And we're trying to raise not only awareness, but how to do it correctly if you're ever put in an opportunity to save someone's life,
Right.
to be able to do it correctly,
Right.
to have Narcan available for these things. But that is kind of the main purpose, is to fund End Overdose and what they do.
Okay.
And to give them more funding to be able to go to these different events. And you should see it, like the young people, and I know I'm not old, but I mean, the young people that are at their tent that are learning about this information, like they're growing up more in the overdose world than I did.
Right. Right. No, it's a lot more common now, and it's, we actually had the principal in Newport Harbor on one of our shows, and we talked a lot about kind of high school students and the families, and what they do at that school, and I think a lot of schools now, is they're getting Narcan. They're getting funding for Narcan and getting Narcan at the schools, because if something happens while they're there, they can actually, and they give it to all the teachers and educate them. Yeah. And so, I mean, I think this, what End Overdose is doing is similar to that, and they're working with the community to bring that, because if you don't have it, I mean, there's nothing you can do. I mean, and it's something that you needed in that moment. Yeah. We've even had, sometimes, one of our staff, let's say somebody wanted to come to our program. Usually they come, their family brings them, but sometimes they ask, hey, can you guys come and, pick them up or will kind of help us out? Yeah. And we had an incident where, they went to pick him up and the person had overdosed, and, if our staff, they carry the Narcan with them. Yeah. So if they didn't have the Narcan there, they wouldn't have brought that person back to life. Right. And I mean, the family was so overwhelmed and so grateful that, that happened. And it was just, and I think we needed like 3 Narcans. Yeah. One wasn't even enough, right? Yeah. So you need to have that supply, and really there's no amount of supply that's enough. I think the more the better, and it's one of those things where, every organization should be coming together and figuring out how to get more of that.
So I know a big thing is lack of funding for them to get it out to more people in the community. So that's one of the reasons they do these events, to raise the money. The other one is awareness of and breaking the stigma of, oh, my kids would never be doing fentanyl. It's like, unfortunately, like, it's in everything now. They mix it in marijuana, cocaine, ecstasy, pills. So everything you get on the streets now has fentanyl in it, and kids go to parties and they're peer pressured, and it's happening a lot sooner than it ever has before with younger generation. Like, we're talking like 9th graders and 10th graders, like having issues where they did something at a party and they died. And there's a lot of families, unfortunately, where they've lost their loved ones, because of this. So that's another reason End Overdose is trying to do as many events as they can to bring awareness to everybody, and to raise money. So
yeah, I mean, I think, the kind of the stereotype of an addict or alcoholic is this image that people have, and it's in the movies, and you see it, and junkies and all that. But really, what's happening now with the this epidemic of fentanyl and just also suicide, right? It's a combination of the mental health and the addiction and the fentanyl and the suicide rates, especially with the younger, under 18 population skyrocketing. We're actually going to be launching our teen program at Ocean Rock.
That's awesome.
So we're going to do both teen residential and outpatient. That's going to start probably around January of next year. So we're working on all the licensing for that. But I mean, one of the reasons we want to do that, I have 3 kids myself. Okay. I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. Okay. And so we hang out with a lot of families that have kids, and it's like that's kind of our whole community now. When you get kids, you kind of start doing those types of things.
I have 3 myself.
So and then you just the news is just garbage, and just everyone's just talking, and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do this, and now watching all these debates and elections and stuff, and everyone on every side, everyone's gonna be doing something about it. But I mean, I've been in this industry for 10 years, and there's been a lot of talk, but there's not been a lot of action. And there's been money that they throw out there, but it just doesn't go to the right places. It's the people that they know, and somehow I don't know who gets this money, but we don't. I don't think we've gotten any of it. And we're the ones who are actually helping people. But the reason I say all that is because the young generation, they are inadvertently getting involved in all this, right? Because they're just trying to live their life, and but now with social media and with all this pressure that comes with what it looks like everyone has this beautiful life, the mental health issues are skyrocketing, right? And then there's this whole like identity crisis of like gender and all these things that are just kind of craziness, as far as like when we were younger, we didn't have to deal with these types of things. At least it wasn't as commonplace. And so you have that. And then you have fentanyl and the things that are actually much stronger than fentanyl now that we're seeing. That, and it's not people who are just going to use heroin and use fentanyl, right? Of course, those are the people we help. That's the, the more frequent case. Right. But there's these kids that are just at a party and somebody, hey, they get a pill or they get something and no one even knows what's in there. Yeah. Or sometimes, they run out of their pain medication and somebody gives them some counterfeit medication and it's supposed to be a pain reliever, but it has, laced with fentanyl. So
it's dangerous.
You hear from the moms. And I think that's the biggest heartbreak, is when you hear from these moms who, they had these babies and they've raised these babies. And, the moms that are dealing with kids that are in active addiction, that's its own challenge, and we love working with them and helping them. But the moms who just had no clue, and this came out of nowhere, and their kid just one day was there and was fine and was getting good grades, and the next day they got a phone call that their son or daughter passed away.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. And I mean, I think that there are things that are happening now, and one example is End Overdose, and it's just there's this collective of people like ourselves who are actively involved in the recovery community and the delivery of care, right? And I think it's our responsibility to, through these different organizations, to continue to raise awareness. That's why we even do this show. We don't get paid to do this show. We actually cost us money. But it's to raise awareness and to give back to the community. So to hear that you guys are involved in this, and to also know all the other things you're doing, that excites me. And I think it's just one of those things where if every single person does a little bit, it's going to go a long way.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm super grateful that we partnered up with End Overdose, and before I even knew about End Overdose, I would always try to get the Narcan. So I have Narcan in my house, I have Narcan in my car, I have Narcan in my sober livings. And it is expensive to go get it. I remember telling a mom, she was asking me if I had any, and at the time I didn't. And I said that they do sell it at some stores, and she went and called me and told me that it was like
sold out.
Yeah, it was
expensive.
It was like $100 and something. But hindsight, having it, right, saving a life, there's no price you could put on it, but it would be a lot easier if it was more affordable or accessible for families and communities to be able to have it. You know?
Well, and I don't think a lot of people know about it.
Right. They don't even know what it is.
Right. We're in this industry. That's why we know about it so well.
Yeah.
But so many people don't even know what Narcan is.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't think the average person knows.
No, I don't either.
Even before I got into this field, I didn't know what it was. And so, I mean, it reverses overdose, essentially.
Right. It's such an amazing drug that it should have way more awareness to it than it does. And that's what we're trying to do.
Right. So to recap, the event is going to be at Torrey Pines Golf Course. That's in San Diego.
Correct, in beautiful La Jolla.
And that was October 4th and 5th.
Yep, so October 4th, we're going to do a dinner/gala overlooking the ocean at the beautiful Hilton right there at Torrey Pines. We're going to have a comedian. He's in the recovery space. Then we're going to have some speakers. We're going to have a DJ. And then Saturday, we're going to have golf. And those people that don't golf, we're going to have yoga. We're going to have sound bath. We're going to have pickleball. We're also going to have some really great pool events. And then after that, we're going to have an awards luncheon. We're also going to have a silent auction. Not a silent auction, an auction. Where we're going to be able to trying to raise more money for End Overdose.
Right.
So we're trying to put together
What's the goal? What's the goal of how much are you guys trying to raise?
We're trying to raise $200,000.
It's achievable.
So It is achievable, and
But
we're
everyone-
almost there.
Okay.
But the cost of everything too.
Right, it's
to
expensive.
Golf at Torrey
Yeah,
Pines.
you want people to go and participate, right? And
Yeah.
so, where can, if somebody watching this is interested in, and you guys can put a clip of this on your own, you guys can promote it
Yeah.
however you want. Where would they go to find the registration details?
So to register, you would go to events, so events.webserve.io. Hold on.
And Ren just brought it up on his phone, and it made me think of something because I saw on there the Noel Foundation, Sublime, the Noel Foundation from the Sublime singer.
Right.
They're one of the sponsors, and they're
Okay,
part of
nice,
it.
nice.
And it's just we have so many, like I was saying, kind of blending the lines of recovery and Hollywood.
Right.
We have a premier bank as one of the sponsors. We have some attorneys that are sponsors.
Right.
Anybody that's really trying to give to an amazing cause. It's not just treatment centers. It's everybody trying to come together to have this great event to raise money to save lives.
Awesome.
Let me give you the link one more time because I didn't. say it
You butchered it
completely.
last time.
Yeah. So no, it's events.webserve.io/end-overdose.
All right, and then just send me the link. We'll
Yep.
we'll put it on.
Okay.
And then we'll just send you guys some clips, and you guys
Yeah.
can put it.
Okay.
I mean, it's a great event. It's a wonderful thing, and what I love about it is the combination of a beautiful location, really quality programming, the schedule, and combining education and information with networking with entertainment, and I think it's something that everyone who has the interest in raising awareness and wanting to help people, and whether you've been impacted by it or if this is something that you're passionate about, should go and attend. And I think you guys have done a great job of promoting
Thank
it. So
you.
thanks for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have, if you don't want to golf, you can just come to the dinner, and you
Okay.
can just come to the lunch.
Okay.
We have general admission things where you can come see the comedian and see some of the speakers if you don't want to golf. So it's
Right.
kind
So
of,
there's some options.
there's some options,
different
trying to
price
make
points,
it for
different
everybody.
options.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Whether you want to just chip in or if you want to go full force and do the whole thing,
Actually, bring your family, Tom.
bring
You
the-
could
bring the
go to
kids,
pool. Yeah.
they'll
I'm
take
bringing
over.
mine.
They'll take over. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. It was a pleasure to have you on the show, and looking forward to participating in this and promoting it, and then
Thanks, Tom.
just one day at a time helping people in this industry.
That's right.
Awesome.
Thanks for
for
this
having
platform,
us.
Tom.
Thanks
Thank
a lot,
you.
guys.